On another episode of Changemakers with Annie Wells from Simply Suzette. So basically, Annie, if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey with denim and sustainability.
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm a huge fan of everything you're doing at Denim Privé. So, thanks for having me today. And as mentioned, my name is Annie Wells, and I am a sustainable denim consultant. And I am also the founder and director of a platform called Simply Suzette. This platform I founded, which explores the juxtaposition and the intersection of fashion and sustainability in denim. I like to use the word juxtaposition and intersection just because I think sometimes it seems a far reality that fashion and sustainability can exist and maybe almost impossible to exist in a sustainable realm. But I also do see so many areas of intersection where we are able to use fashion for good. So I like to use both words depending on how I'm feeling, honestly. As we know, I think all of us on this sustainability journey, there are lots of ups and downs. Motivational highs were like, yes, we can do this. And then lows were like, oh gosh, it seems very overwhelming. I love exploring both sides of sustainability, areas where we're challenged and feel like things might not be able to work, but also exploring those intersections where we are motivated and see the positive outcome that we're working on. So a bit about my journey into the denim space. I've always been a jeans and a tee kind of gal. But it wasn't until my fashion program that I started after university that I really started to understand the impacts of denim. And it was thanks to one of my professors, actually, because she knew that I loved denim and really wanted to go into the industry. So she pulled me aside one day and was just like, honestly, Annie, you have to know that denim is one of the worst garments to produce besides leather. And I was like, what? That can't be true. So that's when I really started the research or my research into what a sustainable denim brand could look like. And those were out there doing things differently. So I started getting in touch with those brands, asking them a bunch of questions about their supply chain. And for me at that point, my understanding of the supply chain was basically retail, wholesale, manufacturer. I had no idea about this whole world behind who makes our jeans. So that's when I started going deeper into the supply chain, asking further questions about sustainability, started getting really connected within the industry and just felt like everybody was willing to share what they were learning as well. So that's what was very, very motivating for me to come into an industry that I was new to and feel like there was a common goal or interest of doing good. And so that's really why I landed and have, I think, stayed in the denim world. Also, I'm sure all of us know that once you've been bitten by the blue bug, you're pretty much in this industry forever. Um, yeah, that's kind of my journey with sustainability. I'd also say on top of that, there are also many factors contributing to the reasons that I wanted to explore this, but I also had a personal investment in it because I was going through some health, just some health concerns. And part of that, I started switching to natural skincare, got connected to a natural skincare brand, and we became friends. And she started talking about our clothing and all the chemicals in our clothing too. So that was also a factor that I had in my mind and when I was researching just the inputs that go into denim and the outputs of production that affect the environment. So had a personal investment in it, but also I've always loved nature, and I definitely want to see a world where I can continue to go on hikes in the mountains and enjoy the beaches in the world and preserve the beauty of this planet. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like all roads lead back to sustainability and denim.
Definitely.
Yeah. So cool. So how about you tell us a bit about Simply Suzette and how you see your role in this denim and fashion industry.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not been a linear journey with Simply Suzette, that's for sure. I originally started out actually as an e-commerce website. I curated the brands that I had been researching and felt like they were some of the best brands working on sustainability at the time. So my goal was to basically create a guilt-free, quote unquote, place for
Mm.
people to shop for denim, um, and have them actually look and feel like premium denim rather than this stigma behind raw denim and having to break them in and maybe it not being so attractive. So I was trying to change the perception of sustainability within fashion and specifically denim with this e-commerce shop. But throughout that journey, quickly along, I found there was obviously a complete lack of education with consumers in terms of sustainable production processes. So I would do pop-up shops around Canada and I would ask customers, I'm like, oh, like, do you want to know more? And they'd be like, oh, it's sustainable. Great. Like, I'll just buy it. And I'm like, but do you want to know like why it's sustainable? And they oftentimes didn't care, honestly. So that's when I really was like, okay, how do we change the consumer's mind? And that's when the Diligent Denim blog was born. So I used the blog to basically write about my learning experiences and what I had been, learning from the denim industry and bringing that industry information to the consumer. Because at the time, I found it very difficult to find that information. It was only through interviews and getting connected with the industry that I was able to have my questions answered. So the goal really with that was to basically provide a bridge to the industry and the consumer and democratize information. I think we'll get to this in a bit too, but yeah, definitely democratizing that information and making it available to anyone that would like to know, but also making it approachable because at the same time, the information that I was receiving was highly technical. And I put 2 years of work
Mm.
into kind of breaking it down for myself into a more digestible manner of understanding it because I was new to this industry and obviously new to these technical terms as well. So that was really why I started the blog was to break down this technical information and make it more approachable for the consumer. And from there, it really evolved into becoming an industry platform. So I would say most of my audience now is startup brands, denim students, anyone just entering the industry. I also started a
Mm.
page called Supply Chain 101 that breaks down every step in the denim supply chain and also lists some of the best practices involved at each step along the way. So that also has been a huge help to that audience and that demographic. So I really do see Simply Suzette as a platform for industry newcomers to come and learn and have a starting point if they're looking to um, produce better jeans, change their processes into more sustainable ones, or just get a better understanding of what the supply chain actually looks like and the steps involved. So that's where I see Simply Suzette fitting today. And I also do see Simply Suzette still planting seeds of inspiration. We oftentimes talk about higher level concepts and maybe more philosophical concepts that are inspirational versus actionable sometimes. So I would say
Mhm.
seeds of inspiration is definitely a big push for Simply Suzette in the industry as well.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it was in like I explored your website and I was like, okay, she has her hand in like a little bit of everything. But I like that it takes the educational portion of this very seriously. And the interaction, from behind the scenes all the way with the consumer. I think that's really cool. Um, so what kinds of, I guess, clients have been coming to you and for what kinds of services? Yes, access to the blog, but where do you see kind of you were talking about the actionable steps?
Yeah, totally. So Simply Suzette is based a free resource. Honestly, it's pretty much a passion project of mine. I do
Mhm.
have a lot of clients come to me for collaborative projects through Simply Suzette, and that often takes the shape of designing sustainable capsule collections. But the majority of my clients are actually looking for assistance with sustainability reporting, and on top of that, tools to
Mm.
communicate their impact. So it's
Yeah.
not just Simply Suzette now. I have a sustainability lead who is my lead research and analyst who handles all things LCA and data, which I am so thankful for her. And I also have a marketing manager on my team now as well. So with that help, we're really able to build ESG roadmaps, setting the tactics to achieving those roadmaps, and then also being able to put those sustainability reports together and help these companies communicate what they're actually doing. So that we're backing up everything with proof, avoiding any greenwashing. And I would say most of the clients come with this full package kind of request. It's not one without the other anymore. They really do want the sustainability reporting with the communication help because everybody is trying to, not greenwash their customers and the industry. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a twofold endeavor, both to be environmentally friendly and then to communicate that effectively. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I do, and that's it's not one without the other anymore.
Yeah. And then I feel like this is in line with it. Like, what can you tell us about an example of a project where you felt like you really made an impact? Yeah, something specific.
Yeah, totally. I think one of my main roles right now is being the communications manager at Transformers Foundation, and I am very proud every day of the work that we're doing there. Specifically with our annual reports, like the latest one we did was around fashion certifications, and it was called Fashion's Certification Complex, basically, and it was about the chaotic landscape of all these certifications. It was specifically surrounding chemicals, but I am very proud about that report that my team put out. I was responsible for communicating that report to the industry, and it was very well taken. We had a lot of endorsers, a lot of supporters, and this report basically puts forward a way to move beyond culture of certifications like we rely on now. So it's very future thinking, but it also sets out actionable steps for every tier of the supply chain, basically from the industry to chemical suppliers to policymakers, etc., on how this landscape would look. So definitely encourage everyone to
Wow.
give that a read. But definitely proud of that, and it feels like we're truly making waves in the industry with these projects that we do there. So
Yeah. No, it sounds really thorough, and it's cool to get a lens into, yeah, some of the certifications and the communication and the paperwork behind the magic of the denim.
yeah,
Yeah. So, okay, so I saw that on your website. You say you believe in the democratization of information. Could you tell us a bit about where this is coming from and where you see it going in the denim
totally.
industry?
Yeah. I think just like touching a little bit on what I was speaking about before, when I first started out, it was extremely difficult to find the information I was looking for. And then breaking that technical information that you do find into something more approachable. But my idea behind this was really um, transparency. It kind of came from my values of transparency. And a few years ago, transparency and traceability was not talked about as much as it is today, which is why that bridge from the industry to the consumer was more important. So I'm super excited to see everyone becoming more transparent in what they're doing and actually voicing to the consumer what their supply chain looks like. So really, my goals with bridging this gap between the industry and consumer, I feel like the industry is doing, and it makes me very happy that it's happening. But it also means that Simply Suzette does need to evolve. So we are evolving, and we're definitely looking to grow into our consulting business more, but continue to update
Mhm.
Supply Chain 101 with all that we're learning throughout the trade shows we're attending, the seminars that we're attending, the research that we're doing. So it's not going to be stagnant. So we're going to continue to try and highlight everything we find because there is a supply chain basically within every step of the supply chain. So there's still lots to uncover, lots to unpack, but I think the democratization of information came from my transparency values and felt like this information should just be known. I don't know why it's secretive. So and
Yeah.
for consumers, especially to make their own decisions on what they're buying, I do think it's important for them to have all the information if they wish to
Yeah.
know that much about the
To
product.
access it.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
And how you respond when a company approaches you about trying to be more regenerative and reuse.
Totally. I think definitely we'll get into the specifics, but definitely when helping anybody, whether it's a manufacturer or brand, I feel like most oftentimes it's moving from like a harm reduction model to more of like an actual positive impact mindset. So like from like a less bad mentality to doing like actual good. Um, so in that case, you really need to look at everything, every input, every output, all the processes used, the internal, external initiatives. But specifically, I think the first areas that we focus on to like encourage a regenerative or and to encourage just more regenerative practices within our own supply chains. We're looking at the raw material stage to see if they actually have access to land management. Another area we look to are the energy mixes in the country that they're operating in, whether or not renewable is a good option or available to them at all. Also external initiatives.
Amazing. Cool. So, would you want to tell us about any areas of resistance or difficulty that you've encountered in the denim industry? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Currently, I am doing a research study on cotton traceability, where we have found definitely a few tricky spots, in particular within the mills, especially like in blending. It's really a challenge to trace back to the farm level what where that cotton came from directly, what farm, what region it came from. So that's definitely a sticky part, but I we'll have updates on that at on Fashion Revolution Week next year. Actually, the study will be released then. But yeah, it's definitely a tricky spot in terms of understanding how to really change the way we look at the cotton industry. I'm still learning lots about it, but another area I would say that's a tricky spot right now is the thought of degrowth. We're so built on an industry based on growth, and the thought of producing less just does not comprehend with the industry. So that's a huge area I'm trying to explore right now. Interviewing different mills and manufacturers, how they're adding services to increase profitability while potentially producing less. So that's a big area. I think that is definitely the elephant in the room in terms of sustainable conversations that we have. We produce way too much, we consume way too much. And I really believe that we need to be thinking about the concept of degrowth in order to meet our sustainability goals. Not the most commercial answer people are looking for.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get that. I think that that's super fair. No, but I think that that is going to be helpful. And I think everyone wants the answers.
Yeah.
Even if the answer is do less. I think, but no, yeah, I appreciate your candor. Um, and then what's something, this is like along those lines, but what's something that you've learned or encountered that like either really surprised you or you felt like an urgency to share, like, oh, everybody should know this, and I'm like so surprised that I didn't.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things. I would say this is actually a really hard question because I do feel like the information is very available nowadays.
Mhm.
Um, but I think one thing that during this con traceability study in specific, since I'm so locked into this right now, one of the things that I was surprised to learn is that brands are not asking, or a lot of brands, obviously there are some, but a lot of brands are still not asking mills for farm level traceability or data. So at that point, because they're not being asked, it's just not a priority at the moment. But I truly do think that we need to be able to trace our supply chains fully back in order to have the impacts that we want. So I think it's and especially with just transparent traceability is everything in order to do what we want and accomplish what we want. So that's something that I really think people should know and should start asking more is asking for that farm level data and starting to get a really great understanding of your own production, your own impacts, rather than using others' data, global averages, etc., and really trying to start and collect your own insights into your own supply chain. So own your supply
That
chain.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Own your supply chain. That I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, because I think, yeah, even in collecting our information, there's a heavy reliance on that public information on the internet and the same statistics, but then trying to drill down, oh, but where did this statistic actually come from can be challenging. So, no, I really appreciate that. A call to make our supply chain our own.
Yeah.
Is amazing. So what are any words of wisdom, either to a company or consumer, as they're trying to be more sustainable?
I always say the power of one is like what I like to leave people with. I think we all get overwhelmed with like the to-do list that we have and the goals that we have. We all want to be perfect, but obviously nothing's perfect, and it's always going to be a journey. We're never going to reach perfection. We're going to always be continuing to want to improve. So I think it's not getting overwhelmed by thinking you have no impact in as a personal consumer, thinking your choices don't have an impact on the world, because obviously if everyone thinks that way, then no one's going to change. So that idea of your actions have an impact is something that I always like to leave people with, but also in a company setting, for example. Like if you're working at a large corporation and you have ideas that you think would be great for the company, or like move the company to more regenerative practices, share them. Don't be afraid, and try and plant those seeds of inspiration within the company. You never know who picks it up or where that conversation goes. So that's something I think most of us these days are here to try and do the best we can. So that's all you can do, and don't get discouraged if you feel overwhelmed. We all get overwhelmed sometimes, and understand that perfection, it's not we're not aiming for perfection. We're looking for progress, not perfection. So that's I like leaving people with that notion, is that just believe in yourself and believe that you have the power to make change happen.
Yeah.
Might be
Yeah.
a little cheesy.
No, it's good. I think the power one is important. And to start somewhere and to accept that, like, yeah, not your whole process isn't going to be perfect off the bat just because you decided to try to do better.
Mm.
Yeah. I think if is there anything else that you were like itching to talk to us about or something exciting on your horizon?
I maybe could leave off with like maybe where a Simply Suzette might be going.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm actually coming up on 5 years in April 23. So that will be a big milestone for Simply Suzette. And honestly, it's time for me to rethink the next 5 years. So definitely want to move into helping more companies, organizations, and brands use their power for good. Whether that looks like sustainability reporting, and help communication help, but we'd also love to help build your team and upskills your team's knowledge in terms of sustainability. So the future looks like extended services for Simply Suzette, which would include hosting workshops for sustainability teams, or
Mm.
customer service teams, whoever it may be, looking to increase their knowledge around sustainability. So that will be fun and exciting, because getting to talk to people about sustainability like we're doing right now is probably the most
Mhm.
fun I have in terms of my job. So that is very exciting to me, and I hope, yeah, if anyone's interested, that they can get in touch.
Yeah, no, I think that's really exciting to go from, educating in general to helping the businesses who, as you said, have a lot of power to to make it actionable. So that's very
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, good luck with that. And honestly, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
No, it was fun. It was great. Thank you for having me.